Hello and welcome to Maltbox, the non-chill filtered whisky blog. I'm Andy and this is Whisky Review 117. Now, firstly, I've finished my 4-part mini-series looking at American whisky with the Sazerac Rye. Now, ordinarily, I'd go straight back to Scotland and look at some Scotch. However, I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to look at another English whisky. Specifically, another Bimber release. It's the latest release. It comes in the form of this. Bimber Peated Cask. And there it is, guys. So bottled in July 2020. Released in August 2020. Hot off the press. Ooh, let's get it out. So, you'll notice that this release is called Peated Cask, not Bimber Peated. It's called Peated Cask. There's a reason behind that, and it's probably going to sound quite obvious. However, that's because now that is a pop. This release is actually made using whisky that was finished in casks that previously held peated whisky. The whisky itself is not made up of peated malt. It is not a peated whisky. It has been finished in peated casks, which is what's going to give it some smoky flavours. Or is it? Let's see. Go. I'm going to put a little bit more than usual in there. Maybe that's not more than usual. Standard measure. Because this is bottled at 54.1%. So I am going to be adding water to this in a few minutes just to see what that does to it. Now you notice not much has been drunk out of this bottle. This is because this only got recently delivered to me. I did, however, open it straight away because before I get started I'm going to address a few things. So before I have a rant, let's have a look at that lovely, now synonymous Bimber classic bottle shape there. So there you are, guys. A limited release of 1,750 bottles, bottled at 54.1%. I have bottle number 164, bottled on the 30th of July. Non-chill filtered, natural colour. Now, okay, here we go. So, there's a lot of people out there that have been buying Bimber. I'm included, you know I'm a big fan. However, there's been a lot of people buying them and flipping them. And I've already touched on flipping before when I looked at the Longrow Red. Now, people can do what they want with their money. I'm a firm believer in that. You crack on. However, if people are exploiting a market where they can buy a whisky for £65, have it delivered to their door, and the very same day are trying to sell that whisky on websites such as the Whisky Based Marketplace or in auctions a few weeks later for £300, in some cases that I witnessed, £400, it's taking the piss, isn't it? So, I think in a way Bimber have been a bit of a victim of their own success. However, it is good to see that they are still producing, well, I was about to say fantastic whisky, but is it? We'll see. They are producing whisky that they believe in putting their name against at a price that they believe is accessible. And for me, that is very, very important. I, like a lot of people, have a budget. I have a whisky review channel. You might think, God, how many whiskies does that guy have? All right, I've got a few, over 100, well, 150 as of today. Could be 153, I don't know. I've hidden some away from my wife and forgotten about some of them. Might find them next year. However, I still set a budget. I know what my limitations are, and for me, Bimber is right in that kind of sweet spot. This cost 70 quid. However, I am a member of the Bimber Club, so I got early access to this before it was on general release. If you've not already checked out the Bimber Club, I suggest you do so, because it does give you some nice little benefits like that. I believe it actually retails for about £75 rather than 70. And breathe. So, what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at this whisky. So, this was initially matured in first fill ex-bourbon. It was then transferred into quarter casks. Now, there's a famous Islay distillery that has a certain release that mentions quarter casks. Yeah, it's Lefroy. So basically this was finished in ex-quarter casks from Lefroy. However, those quarter casks prior to the Bimber going in actually held Ardmore whisky from the Highlands. So Islay whisky, so Lefroy went into those casks, matured, was taken out, shipped to Ardmore, Ardmore put their whisky in, and now Bimber went into it as well. A nice little history of those quart casks there. So, natural colour, a nice sort of deep gold. I'm not one of those that start talking about, you know, the burnished twinkle of a piece of barley in the morning sun or anything like that. It's just, it's varying shades of gold, isn't it? Got some nice slow legs on the glass there. On the nose. Now, full disclosure, this is the first time that I've properly sat down with this. I had a cheeky swig last week. I think this got delivered to me on Friday. I think it was Friday last week. And by the way, when I say this, this was being recorded on the 19th of August. So I think it was delivered last week. I mean, to you guys, if you're watching this in like 2 years' time and thinking last week, you might be thinking, what the hell's going on? The reason I was smiling when I put my nose in this glass is because, and it's going to be what I've said for all the other Bimber releases that I've reviewed so far, straight away, I get that Bimber distillate right in the middle of it. That lovely kind of cola cube, spicy, rich, heavy, lovely, viscous distillate. However, around the fringes, we are getting into smoky territory. However, it is not an Ardbeg smokiness. It is not Kilchoman smokiness. This is a nice kind of soft, subtle, arguably supple smoke as well. It isn't a peated whisky, guys, just to reiterate that again. This has been basically taking on a little bit of influence from those secondary casks. There's a really nice kind of lemon sherbet note in there. Could there be a bit of soapiness in there? Possibly. It's getting fresher as this goes on. It's becoming clean, it's becoming crisp, it's becoming spicy. There's licorice in there. Think licorice all sorts, or even the licorice sticks, the old school licorice root sticks. Definite licorice in there for me. Sort of a herbal quality in there as well, which I think, in my mind, is purely down to that cask influence, the finishing casks in those peated casks. Because ordinarily for me, the bourbon ex-Bimbers don't carry that kind of note. And then out of nowhere, there's a nice kind of sugared icing smell as well. What an interesting nose. It's one of those drams that just constantly changes every time you put your nose in there. There's just, I wouldn't say there's a massive amount going on, but it moves a lot. It moves a lot. It's very fluid. It's very changeable. I can get a graininess in there as well, but not an unpleasant, astringent, youthful graininess. It's a nice kind of custardy, vanilla-y, smooth, kind of soft grain flavour. And it goes nice and crisp again the next time I put my nose in. Speaking of crisps, could there be a hint of frazzles in there? Smoky bacon crisps? Possibly. Wow, very, very interesting nose. Very, very interesting indeed. It does still share some of those core Bimber DNA qualities that even the ex-bourbon and the Richard have across these three bottlings. On the palate, 51.4%, no, 54.1%. Got my numbers the wrong way around there, guys. Sorry about that. So 54.1%. Wow, okay. That is interesting. So, firstly, as has been the case with the other Bimbers that I've reviewed. Fantastic mouthfeel, lovely initial spicy hit, and for me those peated cask notes come through so much more prominently on the palate. They make themselves known very, very quickly. There's this sort of like dryness that suddenly hits my palate. It becomes herbaceous, it becomes a little bit smoky. Sooty is probably the best way I could describe it. It's kind of a coal kind of thing going on. If any of you guys have got open fires, when you're nearly at the end of your whatever you keep your coal in, your coal receptacle, and it's a lot of powder in there and you're digging it out and it kind of aerosolizes it a little bit. You get the dust, the coal dust knocking around, and you're putting it into the fire and it's blowing into your face. It's kind of like that. Again, it's not heavily smoky. What I've just described makes it sound like, you know, you're going up a chimney. It's not like that at all. It's going as well into the back, into that lovely kind of vanilla note. The finish, nice bit of spice. Again, the vanilla, a little bit of biscuit. I'm going to go back in for one more try and then I'm going to add water. And top it up a little bit. Yeah, again, what I mentioned on the nose about those kind of cola cubes and the vanilla, the spiciness, and then you just get hit by this really nice kind of herbaceous smoke. It's like it's kind of got a bit of attitude about it. I like it. I like it. It's a very, again, like the nose, changeable, flexible, fluid is probably the way that I would describe this dram so far. Again, we're trying this at full strength, 54.1%. I got it right this time. However, we are now going to add a teaspoon of water, possibly less. There we go. Do that. So, whilst that's opening up, again guys, I do apologise for the little rant that I had at the start. Do I apologise? No, I probably don't apologise actually. I'm just sorry that I take up so much of your time in these videos more than anything. That's probably what I'm apologising for. But thank you to each and every one of you that are here watching this review. Like I normally say at the end of my videos, the reason I do this is because of you guys. Really, really enjoy all your feedback, your comments, your engagement on Twitter, where I'm pretty active. It's really, really good. I've got to know some of you really, really well, and the whisky community is probably one of the tightest knit communities in the world, and it's fantastic. We all share a common goal, and that's to enjoy whisky with each other. Which is another thing that annoys me about flippers, because you can't enjoy whisky that's been bought, sold the next day, and kept shut. Speaking of which, if you look at the hashtag on Instagram and Twitter, Bimber Uncorked, check it out. That's basically people such as myself that received this, opened it straight away with reckless abandon to make a statement that this will not be a £300 bottle of whiskey. This is worth more than that to my enjoyment, to me, to my personal development. So, after the second rant of this video, that may now need to be broken up into 3 parts, a bit like Lord of the Rings. What have we got in with a bit of water in there? I mean, it's retained its clarity, very little cloudiness in there, if any. You'll probably notice that the legs are going down the glass a little bit faster now maybe, but still very slow on the nose. Okay, so that's changed it for me. There's still that slight smokiness, however, I did mention a touch of soap on the nose before I added water. Now for me, it's probably amplified that a little bit by adding water. But I think it's not, is it soap? I'm not sure. It's probably more like sort of like lemon, or there was a little bit of a cut sort of like edge to it, so maybe apple washing up liquid. Normally that would be unpleasant. However, it's kind of leaning more towards the sharp end of it, if that makes sense. It's not actually, it doesn't make me want to blow bubbles, alright? It's it's not unpleasant. You've still got a really nice backbone. You've got other flavours in there, like the vanilla's still there, it's still quite prominent. I'm getting a little bit of Turkish delight. Could that be that kind of soapy element that I was talking about? It could be. We can only go off our own experiences in terms of what we've had to eat, drink, smell. Each person will be different. We are all different. There are over 6 billion of us on this planet. There's inevitably going to be a slight variation. It's getting fresher now on the back end. I think for me, I've mentioned apple or lemon washing up liquid. I'm going to revert to that apple, and for me there's kind of like a Granny Smith tart crisp green apple note going on the back. There's still a little edge of smoke, a lovely sort of cereal note still coming through. It's probably a little bit muted on the nose now, however there is still plenty to be getting on with on the palate. Still a great mouthfeel, still a lovely mouthfeel. There's more vanilla on the palate for me now. The smoke elements, the peated elements are delayed. I'm getting a creaminess now that I didn't get on the palate the first time around without water. And I think for me the sort of like herbaceous qualities are still there. The sooty smoke and peat kind of element still there, softened, and it has been delayed slightly. It's been pushed further towards the finish, and it's continuing down now into that finish for me. Again, still a little bit sweet, touch of honey, bit of spice. Again, for me, another resounding success from Bimber. There's a lot of hype around these guys, reiterating what I said before about the prices that these are going for at auction and on the secondary market. But if you guys can get hold of it, get in there as early as you can, you won't be disappointed if you manage to pick something like this up. I mean, it's a great little bottle, great whiskey, still within a relatively good price point. It's young, it's 75 quid, that is a premium. However, those guys have got such a small operation. I really do encourage you to look on YouTube while you're here, if you're here, and just look for Bimber Distillery, and you'll see their stills. They've got 2 stills, and they're still filling their casks by putting milk churns under those stills. That's how small an amount they are actually managing to distill and collect. It's not much. They are not filling many casks, so it's no wonder that these things are so sought after, particularly when they're of such good quality. So guys, again, a bit of a shout out to the channel. So if you've liked what you've seen today, congratulations for making it to the end. However, please do feel free to subscribe. If you want to check out my social media, I'm on Twitter at Maltbox, I'm on Instagram at MaltboxWhiskey, and as always guys, thank you very much for watching. See you soon.